either knew or should have known about these. And for whatever reasons, all of that, and this is why they're censoring doctors. So here's a question I want to ask you. So if we're in the middle of this pandemic, where are all the conferences of scientists and doctors, even if they're online, even if they're on Zoom or whatever, however you want to do it? Why hasn't there been one every 2 weeks? Wouldn't you think one on therapeutics, one on vaccine design, one on this? Where has that been? One on OSHA standards, engineering controls. Nothing. This has been a top-down control by one person, and I don't know why it is. I was just alarmed because none of the policy was following the science. I knew that we had the science to overcome this last summer, and I thought by the middle of the summer it would be struck down. I did my research on hydroxychloroquine. It's very intimately connected with my field, so I understood what they were saying. I said the science of this medication is stellar. It's been parachuted out for the third world where it was, just given away like candy. There are a few things that you need to be aware of. One is G6 phosphate dehydrogenase mutations in Africans and African Americans, but we know a lot about that. So this was an amazing medication with some of the most stellar basic science I'd ever seen. The top infectious disease expert in the world came out and said, I show that it obliterates viral replication in 6 days, and that basically it turns this around in all my patients. Now, obviously, more studies need to be done, but this is an FDA-approved drug that is safe, and it's been used for decades, for 70 years. And yet, because I'm like, they're like, well, we need to take this inoculation because this is so deadly, but we can't take an FDA-approved medication? That makes no sense. And so there's a lot more going on here. I don't really want to discuss the politics, but what you need to know is that you're not being told the truth, or you're not being told the whole story. Why that is, I can only speculate.
Let me tell everyone. Let me jump in real quick, Dr. Parks. Everybody who's watching, I'm speaking with the one and only Dr. Christina Parks, and Dr. Parks gave some stellar testimony that a lot of you saw online. I'm gonna put her name up here, and also, if you could, everybody, as you come in, hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button, share this video, because y'all know I don't know how long it's gonna be up, but I don't care. I want you all to have facts and truth and make your own decision. And hit that like and share button. That's really important, because we have to support our people that are out to represent our interests and protect the community and support the community. And you guys, I don't think Dr. Parks needs to prove that. She did a great job. And I want to show you something, Dr. Parks. You said a lot that's really made me think. And in fact, I want everybody to know Dr. Parks is one of the reasons why my wife and we don't watch the news anymore. We just watch C-SPAN. C-SPAN. I love C-SPAN because C-SPAN will let you watch the actual press conference where you can actually hear what someone said, instead of CNN or MSNBC or Fox or whatever, where they'll give you their spin on what they said, or they'll take it out of context. I drives us crazy. We're like, no, we just want to hear what they said, right? And so let me show you something. You brought this up, and I actually did research on this, and I want to show everybody this. This is on my Instagram. My Instagram's the Real Boyce Watkins, in case you guys want to check it out. And you mentioned this during your testimony, Dr. Parks, and I want to highlight this. This is a Carnegie Mellon study that shows that PhDs are the most vaccine hesitant group of all. That here, this big tall spike, these are the PhDs. These are the people with bachelor's and master's and professional degrees, people with a little bit of college who didn't quite finish. And then here are the people with high school diplomas or less, almost up there with the PhD. It's utterly fascinating. It almost says to me that sometimes thinking that you know everything because you're following the crowd or doing what everybody else is doing so a little bit of knowledge can be very dangerous. You either want to have no knowledge or a lot of knowledge, it seems, on things like this, where you either know what the heck is really going on or you don't do anything because you don't trust the government. But Dr. Parks, you brought that up, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that. That was really fascinating. I when you mentioned that PhDs are among the group that's the most hesitant to get the shot, I thought about myself. I thought about my sister, who's a medical doctor. I thought about other PhDs and MDs that I know who said, nah, maybe let me think about it. And so can you kind of speak to that? What made you bring that up during your testimony?
Well, there's this social pressure that you need to be able to follow the science, right? That if you don't want this vaccine, you are anti-science, and nothing could be more further from the truth. Again, science is complex. There are always unintended consequences, and in fact, as I said, those of us who are scientists know that there are often unintended consequences. And until we're very, very certain about something, and they're also the hardest to persuade because we know what we know, right? Other people are like, well, I don't know who to believe. Should I believe my doctor? Should I believe you? Should I believe them? And so they're just kind of like, eeny, miny, mo. Okay, I'll trust them today. We know what we know. And if there's a hesitancy there, it's because we're not comfortable with that science yet. And so there are times when sometimes you wait to see what the unintended consequences are. Or maybe you just flat out say, hey, no, that is not safe, or whatever it is. But, you also are able to research. And so many PhDs will take the time to dive into the literature. In fact, they'd probably be more vaccine hesitant if some of them weren't just so busy and maybe they don't have kids and they just haven't spent the time to do the research. Because one of the things, again, when I was in graduate school, I didn't learn most of this. I had to go pull the primary literature, and I was like, whoa, where, most of us are like, where did this come from? Why is this not being talked about? And so, but more and more moms who had vaccine injured children, and unfortunately, many of those moms are Black moms, African American moms, who, I mentioned that the MMR study that Congress finally said, hey, do the MMR study and prove that the MMR doesn't cause autism. And they did it and found that it caused over, 3.7 times the rates of autism in Black boys that got their inoculations on time versus those who got it late. What would it be if they didn't get it at all? And they showed the data. Those experiments happened in 2002. How many Black boys' brains could we have saved if we had stopped? It's very, very upsetting to me. That's and yet the media wants us to think that, oh, we really care about Black people. And, if you want to talk about institutionalized racism, well, there you go. I mean, however you want to, to me, the history of inoculation is one of testing on marginalized populations, covering up unintended consequences, and whitewashing the whole thing, especially now that there's a profit to be made. After much research, I can tell you this, and I don't believe it's a Black thing. I just believe that had it been anyone, they would have covered it up, but more so because that's a little bit more of a political issue.